The dust kicked up behind Ethan Callahan's weathered pickup as he drove down the long country road leading to his family ranch. After a grueling day of fence repairs on the far edge of his property, all he wanted was a hot meal and the comfort of his home. The late afternoon sun cast golden rays across the rolling hills, illuminating the same landscapes his grandfather had admired decades ago. When he rounded the final bend, Ethan slammed on his brakes. His truck skidded to a halt. "What in the hell?" he muttered, squinting through his windshield. The wide wrought iron gate that had welcomed 5 generations of Callahans stood wrapped in yellow caution tape. A large notice board had been hammered into the ground beside it. Even from this distance, the bright red lettering was unmistakable. Violation. Ethan's calloused hands gripped the steering wheel tighter as he took a deep breath. This wasn't the first time the newly formed Homeowners Association had tried flexing their authority over his 150-acre ranch. But blocking access to his own property? That crossed a line. He stepped out of his truck, boots hitting the gravel with purpose. A cloud of dust settled around him as he approached the gate. Up close, the notice detailed multiple alleged infractions: non-compliant entryway structure, unapproved design elements, excessive height violation. Ethan ran his hand over his face, feeling the day's stubble beneath his fingertips. His father had built this gate with his own hands after returning from overseas. Its unique design, incorporating horseshoes from the family's first breeding stock, stood as a silent testament to the Callahan legacy. "Dad, what's going on?" Ethan turned to see his 15-year-old son Jake pulling up on his dirt bike, confusion spreading across his face. "Seems our new neighbors have opinions about our gate," Ethan replied, trying to keep the anger from his voice. Jake had already absorbed enough of his frustration with the HOA over the past months. "Can they even do that?" Jake asked, dismounting and standing beside his father. The boy's features, so much like his grandfather's, hardened as he read the notice. "According to them, they can." Ethan carefully removed the caution tape, folding it methodically. But this isn't over. Behind them, a sleek SUV slowed as it passed. Margaret Chin, the HOA president, made no attempt to hide her scrutiny of the Callahans. Her window rolled down just enough for her voice to carry. "Mr. Callahan, that notice is official." The board voted unanimously. "Your gate doesn't meet community standards and must be replaced within 30 days. Without waiting for a response, she drove on, leaving father and son standing in a cloud of dust. "Community standards," Ethan repeated quietly. This land was Callahan land before there was a community. As they pushed the gate open together, Ethan's mind was already turning. Years of ranching had taught him that every problem had a solution. Sometimes you just had to get creative. What Margaret and her board didn't understand was that generations of working this unforgiving land had bred a particular kind of resilience into the Callahan bloodline. They had no idea what was coming. If you've ever felt like rules were unfairly applied to you, you'll want to see how this story unfolds. Subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss what happens next. The Callahan Ranch wasn't just land, it was a legacy. Spanning 150 acres of rolling hills, fertile pastures, and a creek that never ran dry, it had weathered dust storms, economic downturns, and the relentless march of suburban development that now pressed against its borders. Ethan Buck Callahan, at 48, embodied the quiet strength his father and grandfather had shown before him. His weathered face told stories of pre-dawn mornings and midnight calving sessions, of drought years and abundant harvests. Widowed 5 years earlier when his wife Marie lost her battle with cancer, Ethan had shouldered both parenting and ranching responsibilities with the same unwavering resolve. "Dad, I finished my college application essay. Would you read it?" 17-year-old Lily stood in the doorway of the ranch office, a space that hadn't changed much since her grandfather's time, except for the laptop Ethan reluctantly used for business. Lily was her mother's daughter, artistic, ambitious, with dreams that stretched beyond the ranch boundaries. Her portfolio of landscape photography had already earned her attention from art schools on both coasts. "Of course," Ethan said, taking off his reading glasses. "Jake still out with the new calves?" Lily nodded. He named them all after characters from those old westerns you watch. Unlike his sister, 15-year-old Jake embraced ranch life with unwavering enthusiasm. He could mend fences, tend livestock, and ride better than most hands twice his age. The land spoke to him the same way it had called to Ethan in his youth. Just beyond the eastern fence line, Sycamore Estates had sprouted over the past 5 years, a development of luxury homes with manicured lawns that stood in stark contrast to the rugged authenticity of Callahan Ranch. With the homes came the Homeowners Association, established 2 years ago with Margaret Chin at its helm. Margaret, a retired corporate attorney, approached community management with the same precision she had once applied to high-stakes litigation. Her vision for Sycamore Estates included rigorous standards for aesthetic uniformity and property values. The Callahan property is an ongoing concern, Margaret explained during a board meeting in her meticulously decorated living room. While we respect its historical significance, its current state impacts our community's image and value. The board members nodded in agreement, all except Carlos Rivera, who served as treasurer. His family had purchased groceries from Ethan's grandfather decades ago, when the Callahan General Store operated alongside the ranch. "We should remember that ranch was here long before our houses," Carlos offered cautiously. "History doesn't exempt anyone from community standards," replied Linda Patel, the board secretary whose background in design made her particularly sensitive to aesthetic cohesion. Tommy T.J. Johnson, a retired firefighter and the board's oldest member, shifted uncomfortably. "My daddy used to work summers on that ranch. Those people have integrity." Sophia Nguyen, the youngest board member and a tech entrepreneur, tapped her tablet. "According to our satellite imagery, at least 3 structures on the Callahan property violate our height restrictions, including that entrance gate." What began as whispered complaints about cattle odors and tractor noise had escalated into formal notices. First came warnings about fence heights, then about the barn's paint color. Each letter bore Margaret's precise signature. Each citation referenced specific HOA codes that technically extended to all properties within a 5-mile radius, including the ranch that predated those codes by nearly a century. The gate violation was merely the latest salvo in an increasingly tense standoff. When Ethan brought the violation notice to the county records office, the clerk, who'd gone to school with Ethan's older brother, shook his head. "They're pushing boundaries, Buck. That gate has stood since the 1970s, well before any zoning changes." "My father built it when he came home from Vietnam," Ethan said quietly. "Used horseshoes from our first quarter horses." "HOAs have power, but they're not all powerful," the clerk added, sliding a property map across the counter. "Might be worth looking into exactly where your land ends and theirs begins." That evening, as Ethan spread the county maps across the kitchen table, Jake traced the property lines with his finger. "Dad, look at this," he said, pointing to a narrow strip of land. "Is this ours?" Ethan leaned closer, a slow smile forming as realization dawned. Sometimes solutions appeared in the most unexpected places. The county map spread across the Callahan kitchen table revealed something extraordinary. Jake's discovery, a thin strip of land that cut through the heart of Sycamore Estates, wasn't just any parcel. It was the only access road leading to the back half of the development. "This can't be right," Ethan muttered, tracing the boundaries with his weathered finger. "Let me check the digital records," Lily offered, opening her laptop. Her fingers flew across the keyboard, pulling up the county assessor's database. "Dad, it's not our land, but it's not theirs either." The narrow road, originally part of an old logging trail, had never been officially incorporated into the Sycamore Estates development. Through some oversight in the planning process, it remained a separate parcel, listed under the ownership of the original land developer, a company that had dissolved 3 years earlier. "Who owns it now?" Jake asked, leaning over his sister's shoulder. "According to this, the county took it for back taxes, but never auctioned it off," Lily replied, her expression changing as the implications dawned on her. Early the next morning, Ethan made a call to his old friend Robert Wilkins, who had practiced real estate law in the county for 30 years. "Buck, you're saying the only access road to the rear section of Sycamore Estates is county-owned and available for purchase?" Robert asked over the phone, his interest clearly piqued. "That's what the records show," Ethan confirmed. "Is it legal for me to buy it?" "Legal? Absolutely. The county can sell tax-foreclosed properties to private buyers. Whether it's wise." Robert paused. "That road serves what, 20-30 homes?" 27, Ethan replied, including Margaret Chen's. The silence on the line spoke volumes before Robert continued. "I'll look into the process. But Buck, this is playing with fire." Over the next week, Ethan weighed his options carefully. He consulted with Robert about the legal implications and with his ranch foreman about the practical aspects of managing such an acquisition. "The kids need to be part of this decision," Ethan decided one evening, calling a family meeting around the dinner table. "If we buy that road, we could stop them from harassing us about the gate," Jake said immediately, enthusiasm brightening his features. Lily was more cautious. "Dad, these are our neighbors. Do we really want a war?" "Not a war," Ethan replied. "Just a level playing field. They've been using their rulebook against us for months. Maybe it's time they understood what it feels like when someone else controls access to your home." The following Monday, Ethan appeared at the county administrative office, paperwork in hand and cashier's check ready. By Wednesday, the deed was recorded. Ethan Callahan was now the legal owner of Sycamore Pass Road, the only route connecting 27 homes to the main highway. That evening, as the family sat on the porch watching the sunset paint the sky in fierce oranges and deep purples, Lily looked concerned. "What exactly are you planning to do with the road, Dad?" Ethan sipped his coffee thoughtfully before answering. "I'm going to charge them for every truckload that crosses my property. Just like they charge fees for everything under their jurisdiction. They'll fight back, Lily warned. I'm counting on it, Ethan replied. Sometimes people only understand the value of cooperation when they've experienced the alternative. The way Ethan handles this situation might surprise you. Like this video if you've ever had to stand up to unfair rules, and comment below with your thoughts on his approach. The morning sun hadn't yet crested the hills when Ethan and Jake installed the first toll booth, a simple wooden structure positioned at the entrance to Sycamore Pass Road. A professionally printed sign announced, "Private road, $15 PR vehicle, $50 PER delivery truck. Monthly passes available at Callahan Ranch office. You think they'll pay?" Jake asked, hammering the last nail into place. Ethan adjusted his hat. They don't have much choice unless they want to drive 3 miles around through Westfield County. The first resident to encounter the toll booth was Dr. Henderson, who was rushing to the hospital for an early surgery. His luxury sedan screeched to a halt before the barrier. "What is this?" he demanded, rolling down his window. "Good morning, doctor," Ethan replied calmly. "This road is now private property. The toll is $15, or you can purchase a monthly pass." "This is absurd. I'll be late for surgery." "I understand your urgency," Ethan said, not unkindly. "First toll's on the house. But tomorrow, please come prepared." Word spread through Sycamore Estates like wildfire. By 9 a.m., Margaret Chen's phone was ringing continuously. By noon, an emergency HOA board meeting had been called in her living room. "This is clearly illegal," Margaret insisted, pacing across her immaculate hardwood floors. "He can't just blockade an entire neighborhood." Carlos consulted his tablet. "Actually, I've been reviewing the records. He legally purchased that road from the county. It's his property now." Linda Patel looked horrified. "My daughter's wedding is next weekend. We have vendors delivering flowers, food, decorations. He's charging $50 per delivery truck," Tommy T.J. Johnson added. "The Hendersons' furniture delivery cost them an extra $100 yesterday." Sophia looked up from her phone. "I've been researching easement laws. We might have a case for a prescriptive easement based on historical use, but that could take months to litigate." "We don't have months," Margaret snapped. "We need to end this now." Meanwhile, the community had fractured into factions. Some residents sided with Ethan, viewing the HOA's previous actions as overreaching. Others were furious at what they considered extortion. By week's end, Ethan had collected over $3,000 in tolls. He established a schedule, with Jake manning the booth after school and their ranch hand, Miguel, covering other times. Delivery companies began adding Callahan Road surcharge to their invoices for Sycamore Estates addresses. Margaret's first attempt at resolution was a formal cease and desist letter, which Ethan promptly pinned to the toll booth wall alongside his property deed. Her second approach was more direct. She arrived at the Callahan Ranch house on Saturday morning, her Mercedes kicking up dust on the gravel driveway. "Mr. Callahan," she began as Ethan met her on the porch, "this situation has become untenable." "Has it?" Ethan leaned against a post. "I find it refreshing. For once, the rules are working in my favor." "Your toll booth is causing genuine hardship for families," Margaret pressed. "Emergency vehicles, school buses." "Emergency vehicles pass free," Ethan interrupted. "Always have. And I arranged a monthly rate with the school district for buses." "I'm not unreasonable, Miss Chun." Margaret's composure slipped. "What do you want from us? Money? An apology?" "I want the same consideration your association never gave me," Ethan replied. "My family has worked this land for generations. That gate your association flagged? My father built it. Your rules didn't acknowledge its history or its meaning." As tensions escalated, community members showed their true colors. Carlos Rivera began quietly advocating for compromise at board meetings. "Maybe we should reconsider some of our restrictions on historical properties," he suggested. Linda Patel found herself torn between her design sensibilities and her growing awareness of the ranch's cultural significance. After her daughter's wedding vendors paid $300 in tolls, she made an unexpected visit to the ranch. "I've been thinking about your gate," she admitted to Ethan. "It does have a certain authentic charm." Tommy T.J. Johnson, who had family connections to the area's agricultural history, became an unexpected mediator, sharing stories of how the Callahan family had helped neighboring farms during past droughts. Sophia, with her tech-oriented mindset, proposed a digital solution, an app-based system to modernize ranch aesthetics while preserving historical elements. "We could create AR overlays showing the ranch's history for visitors," she suggested at a community forum that devolved into heated arguments. The conflict reached its peak when a moving truck, carrying a new resident's belongings, refused to pay the toll and attempted to force its way past. Ethan stood his ground, resulting in a tense standoff captured on multiple cell phones and shared throughout the county. That evening, as Ethan watched the viral video spreading across local social media, Lily approached him with concern. "Dad, is this really the legacy you want for our family? Being known for blocking roads?" Her question gave him pause. What had begun as a simple defense of his property rights had evolved into something more complex. Community relationships that had taken generations to build were fraying daily. "What would you suggest?" he asked his daughter. Lily smiled thoughtfully. "Maybe it's time for both sides to come to the table." The community center buzzed with tension as residents filled every seat. At the front table sat Ethan, flanked by Lily and Jake. Across from them, Margaret Chin and the HOA board members arranged their documents methodically. "Let's get straight to the point," Mayor Wilson began, serving as mediator. "This dispute has affected everyone. Both parties have legal standing. Mr. Callahan owns the road, and the HOA has enforcement capabilities within their jurisdiction. But legal rights aside, we're still neighbors." Margaret spoke first, her usual commanding tone softened. "The board has reconsidered our position on historical properties. We propose creating a heritage designation for structures predating Sycamore Estates development, exempting them from certain aesthetic requirements." "That's a start," Ethan acknowledged. "But I need guarantees it won't change with the next board election." Carlos stepped forward. "We've drafted bylaw amendments requiring a 75% community vote to alter heritage designations. We've also reduced fine schedules for agricultural properties like yours." Ethan nodded thoughtfully before responding. "In exchange for these concessions, I'm prepared to transfer the road to a community trust, jointly managed by ranch representatives and HOA members. A reasonable access fee would fund maintenance, not profit." Linda Patel, who had been quietly sketching throughout the meeting, passed her notepad to Ethan. On it was a design incorporating elements of his father's gate into a new entrance sign for the entire community, Sycamore Callahan Estates. "Your family's legacy deserves recognition," she said simply. The agreement didn't satisfy everyone. Some residents still grumbled about Ethan's tactics, while others thought the HOA remained too powerful. But after 3 hours of discussion, compromises were reached, documents signed, and hands reluctantly shaken. As the meeting dispersed, Tommy T.J. Johnson approached Ethan. "Reminds me of the water rights dispute of '85. Sometimes folks need to be reminded what it means to depend on each other." The following weeks brought visible changes. The toll booth came down. The gate remained, now bearing a small plaque honoring its history. More significantly, the relationship between the ranch and its neighbors transformed. When spring flooding threatened the creek banks, Sycamore residents joined Callahan Ranch hands in sandbagging efforts. When Linda's daughter got married, Lily offered to photograph the ceremony, capturing moments against the backdrop of rolling ranch hills. One evening, as Ethan and his children sat on their porch watching fireflies emerge, Jake asked, "Was it worth it, Dad? All that trouble?" Ethan considered the question. Standing your ground isn't about winning. It's about earning respect. They needed to understand our connection to this land, and maybe we needed to see that change isn't always a threat. Lily smiled. "And now we're part of each other's stories." This story shows how standing your ground can sometimes be necessary. If you enjoyed this account of rural ingenuity versus bureaucracy, please like, share, and subscribe. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments about times you've had to get creative to protect what matters to you. 3 years have passed since the standoff between Callahan Ranch and Sycamore Estates made local headlines. The community trust managing Sycamore Pass Road has become a model for neighboring developments facing similar rural-suburban boundary challenges. The Heritage Designation Program now protects 12 historical properties in the county. Ethan serves as an advisor on the committee, bringing his practical perspective to preservation efforts. The famous gate still stands proud, its weathered horseshoes gleaming after a restoration project jointly funded by ranch supporters and HOA members. Margaret Chen's term as HOA president ended last year. In a surprising turn, she and Ethan now co-chair the county's Agricultural Heritage Festival. Their unlikely alliance has bridged divides between longtime residents and newcomers. Lily Callahan returns from art school during breaks, her photography showcasing the striking contrast between ranch life and modern development. Her exhibition Boundaries at the County Museum drew record attendance from both communities. Jake, now preparing for agricultural college, runs tours of the ranch for Sycamore Estates children, teaching them about sustainable ranching and local history. Watching city kids connect with the land has become Ethan's unexpected joy. The monthly community dinners, alternating between the ranch barn and the Sycamore Estates clubhouse, stand as testament to what can grow when people defend their principles while remaining open to understanding others. As Ethan often tells visitors who ask about the famous road dispute, good fences make good neighbors, but so does knowing when to open the gate. Thanks for watching this story to the end. For more compelling true stories of people standing up for themselves, subscribe to the channel. What would you have done in Ethan's position? Let me know in the comments below.